the person that's working with a local lender whose reputation is on the line is going to far exceed the qualifying of an individual because their reputation is on the line. Where if you work with a bigger internet company, they're just a numbers factory. They're just trying to get people in. But you're like diligently going through, because ultimately, if that loan doesn't go through, they're going to be pointing the finger at the finance person if it's something financially.
100%.
So you pick up the phone and you can talk to Kevin. And Kevin only. You're not going to have to go through the prompts of so many people.
Yeah, right. If one of my loans is on one of your listings, right?
Right.
If something goes wrong, I walk through the office, come in, talk to you, and go through it. But if something goes wrong, it's on my fault. What? Am I not going to come back in?
Yeah.
Hide around town, trying to stay away from Tim. Like you want to kind of own your work and know like. When we're putting out a pre-approval letter, we want to earn people's business.
Yeah.
We want to let the local agents know you can work with DML, you can work with Kevin.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? It's Tim here with the TMA Connection. It's a local podcast that's focusing on people that are making a difference in the lives of others through real estate, community, just life in general. And today, we got a local lender in the house. Real estate agents like local lenders, and that's a good thing. We might talk about that a little bit. And Kevin here, that's sitting at the table, is one of those go-to great lenders with direct mortgage loans in Bel Air. So, Kevin, welcome to the show, my friend.
Thanks for having me, Tim.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming in. We got an an exciting program coming up with 100% financing through FHA. And so I really wanted to bring you into this because a lot of the people that follow me on social media since I was a teacher are first-time home buyers. And so we really want to try to explore all the different options for people out there. And this sounded like a pretty good option for people to know about. So thank you again for joining us.
Yeah, definitely.
So before we get into the details, let's break this down and give everybody a little bit of an idea about who you are personally.
Got it. Yeah, so Kevin, obviously, I'm here from Bel Air. Grew up right down the road. I went to Falston.
I'm sorry.
Yes, go
I
Cougars.
was a Bel Air teacher.
Yeah.
So.
Shout out Joey Dunn right there.
Joe Dunn. Yes. All right.
So went to Falston, went down to South Carolina, then I moved up to Alaska for a year. Spent some time coaching college hockey up there with the University of Alaska Fairbanks.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's cold up there. But when came back home, one of your coworkers over here at Cummings, Rob Bollock, he introduced me to Jeff Dobrikowski over at DML. Got linked up with them back in 2019, and since then been doing the lending life.
Yeah, I mean, and you really definitely got in a good time because right around that time, the real estate market really took off.
Yeah, getting in 2019 was awesome. It gave me a year to kind of get my foot in the door, figure out what was going on, figure out the processes, and then allow me to just take off when 2020 when the rates dropped. So kind of still fumbled my way through.
Yeah,
as
sure.
far as like figuring everything out and market moving so fast. But with that being said, had I started January of 2020, it would have been a lot more challenging. So I'm very happy to get in 2019 and then be able to take off for 2020 and 2021 and, now still be working through it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And doing a really good job with that as well. Have a client that I'm currently working with that is working with you through direct mortgage loans. So, and doing a phenomenal job there as well. So just want to give you a little bit of a shout out there.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, man.
Yes.
Absolutely. So, there's a lot of loan programs out there, and I hear a lot of first-time home buyers asking about down payment assistance programs, closing cost assistance programs, new teacher, police. Everybody sometimes needs a little bit of help, and so you have a program through direct mortgage loans that helps people get financing for a new home. So let's talk about this program that you are bringing to the table today.
Yeah. So. We have a new 100% FHA financing program. Basically what it does is it covers the full 3.5% down payment, which will allow buyers to be able to get into the home not have to worry about covering the down payment themselves. And in certain events, if they're able to, negotiate the closing costs from the seller, they can find themselves in a 0% down, situation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, so the closing costs aren't necessarily covered within this loan program, but again, if you could put yourself in a situation where there is a seller that is willing to give contribution, that could certainly help out.
Yeah, definitely. So have to cover the closing costs yourself, or you still have closing costs you'll have to cover. Now you have the 3.5% towards that can go towards down payment, can go towards the closing costs, whichever. But if you can pair that with closing cost assistance, you can get yourself close to 0% down altogether.
Yeah, sure, definitely. Now, in your estimation, and I usually have a number that I tell people, but I want to hear what you have to say. What do you estimate roughly percentage of the purchase price would be for closing costs when you're talking about lender fees and title fees?
Obviously, it's not one size fits all, right?
Yep.
So if somebody approached me on the street and was like, "Hey, how much are closing costs, or what do I need?" I would say if you had 10% to go towards down payment and closing costs, you're safe. You're going to be in a good spot. Obviously, if they're then FHA, you can pare that down to about 8. So I would say anywhere from 7 to 10% is where you would probably land.
Okay, good. Then we're in the same ballpark.
Right, cool.
You passed the test.
Perfect.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, cool. Then, so what are some of the what are some of the other things that this program has going for it in regards to qualifying for the financing?
Yeah. So the biggest thing for this program that makes it differentiate from the Maryland Mortgage Program, which is the state down payment assistance program, is there's no income limit. So, Maryland Mortgage Program, for example, you have to stay under the household income limit, and for 2 people, that's $124,000 or so.
Okay.
So, you have 2 kids coming out of college, $65,000 a year each. Right off the bat, they don't qualify for a down payment assistance program through the state of Maryland. So with this, there's no income limit, so you can make as much as you like.
Okay.
And then on top of that, whereas MMP, Maryland Mortgage Program, has a minimum credit score of 640, there is no minimum credit score for this. So we can go down to 600 and still use the FHA 100% financing.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and certainly sometimes people are right on that border, and maybe they're just a few points away and can't get to that 640 limit.
Yeah, so that's a big one that we found. The other big thing is Maryland Mortgage Program and most down payment assistance programs will have a cap on the debt to income ratio of either 45%, 50% or so. This has no cap in the sense that it still has to be approved FHA loan. Yeah. But it can go through our automated underwriting system. So, typically 56% is towards the top.
Probably the ceiling.
Yeah, somewhere right in that ballpark. So you can have a higher debt to income ratio and still get the down payment assistance program. So for those people, that either make too much, have a little bit too much monthly debt, but can still qualify, monthly, whether it be having an extra car payment or whatever that is, it's a good program for them.
Yeah. When you're talking debt to income ratio, just for somebody that might not have a whole lot of knowledge, what goes into you calculating what the debt to income ratio is for a person?
Good question. So the debt to income ratio is your monthly debts. That's what's going to show up in your credit report. So any installment loans, for example, auto loans, student loans, personal loans. You have credit cards, revolving debt. So you'll have anything that pops up on there, but your minimum payment. So oftentimes people come to me and they'll be like, I have $75,000 in debt or whatever that number is.
Sure.
Don't necessarily care about the total amount, more so the minimum payment.
Gotcha.
Right? Because we're going to take that against your gross monthly income. So that's before taxes, any of that. And it's your gross monthly income and your total debts plus the new estimated mortgage. Okay. And that's how you get your debt to income ratio.
And that's where it's the 45, 50, depending on whatever it comes out to be. Yeah. But yeah, okay, cool. Thank you. I mean, I knew that, but I think a lot of people, would
for the listeners.
It's for the listeners. Yeah, awesome. Now, you talked a little bit about Maryland Mortgage Program and how that compares to this 100% financing. And there's also something with the interest rate that differs from both programs as well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So the state of Maryland, their down payment assistance program, the interest rate is set by the state.
Okay.
So whether it is us at DML or anyone else that using Maryland Mortgage Program, the interest rate's the same.
Okay.
Whether your score is 640, 820.
So when you're looking at different lenders and, if you're using Maryland Mortgage Program, it's going to be the same for every single
lender.
So
what I tell people in that instance is like, you want to choose who you think you're going to get the best service from, because ultimately it's all going to be within a couple of dollars of each other.
Yeah.
Right? So whereas with this 100% financing program, it is based off the market rate, meaning if you have a higher credit score, get a better interest rate.
Yeah.
If you have a lower credit score, you can still qualify, but it's not necessarily being impacted, because with the Maryland Mortgage Program also, the interest rates are always usually set above the market rate.
Okay.
So,
right. And because there's a little bit of a give and take, right? I mean, yes,
no such thing as a free lunch.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, if you need this, okay, but you might be paying for it a little bit too.
Yeah, definitely. And that's the thing. The overall thing with the Maryland Mortgage Program and a lot of the down payment assistance programs is that it's owed back at the time of sale or at the time of refinance.
Okay.
So that last part's very important. Time of refinance. So right now, interest rates, are up in comparison to where they were a few years back.
Sure.
Right. So they are expecting rates to hopefully come down here shortly. When that comes and go to refinance, if you have a $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 loan on top of your first mortgage, it can be very challenging to be able to refinance. And if you're already at an above market rate at this time, now you're stuck in that higher rate.
Okay. So
possibly a little bit longer.
So there could be a downfall or a negative to that, but really I think in anything we're saying today it's really on a case by case, person by person basis.
Yeah, there's definitely no one size fits all.
Right.
If it makes sense. There's obviously pros and cons to anything that you do.
Sure.
Right. Especially when it comes to your financing, what may work for you may not work for somebody else. Mm-hmm. If you need help getting down payment assistance, these programs are awesome. They're great tools, and this 100% financing option might not be for everybody. Maryland Mortgage Program might be a great choice, because the biggest thing with the and actually I want to touch on that. Sorry, with the 100% financing, one of the big differentiators between Maryland Mortgage Program is you're actually making amortizing payments on the down payment loan. So
awesome. Yeah.
So say you get $10,000 down payment assistance, you'll be making $80-$90 a month on that payment. So your payment will be a little bit higher than Maryland Mortgage Program, but when it comes time to sell, or it comes time to refinance, you actually owe less of that back.
Less because you're paying on it. That's huge.
Yes.
That is huge. And I've had people that forgot about that grant program that they took, that only took place, a few years ago, and then it's like, oh crap, I have to pay that whole thing back. But with this one, it's kind of at a proration of how long you've been in the house.
Yeah, exactly. Because, if you're getting that, or you're not making any payments, you might tell yourself when you're getting it right away, like, I'll just kind of save a little bit of money away, so when it comes time, I have that, ready to go. Very rarely do we see that actually, go into place.
Yeah.
So, like I said, that's it's very different from Maryland Mortgage Program that it does that, but it's a very, I think, positive. Right?
Sure.
Because it's forcing you to pay it down now and not be stuck with it 20 years down the line if you're in the same loan for, whatever reason. You go to sell your home and you owe the $10,000 there. It's like, man, what happened?
Absolutely. And that's what you have to take a look at is what do these different programs offer, and how do they best fit your goals and needs as what you need in that specific situation.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Because sometimes, people want the money, but maybe they already have money saved up, and that might not be the best option.
Yeah, no. And that's the thing for me. If I speak to anybody, especially if they're coming and trying to chat about, down payment assistance programs, first time home buyer programs, whatever it may be, we may start talking about 100% financing, and very regularly end up at Maryland Mortgage Program.
Yeah.
Very regularly end up using one of the city programs that are out there. And like I said, it's kind of getting a 30,000 foot view of each individual person's goals, their story, what they're hoping to accomplish, and then figuring out what fits best. Because there's plenty of different programs out there to help people, but everyone has its kind of unique differentiator that allows it to make sense for someone.
And that is another example of why it's so important to work with somebody that's local, that is very familiar with the local programs that they have versus going to a bigger box type internet lender that is not specific to any area. And I will also say that when you work with a local lender and you're in a market where there isn't a lot of inventory and you're competing against other, that you might be in a multiple offer situation, the person that's working with a local lender whose reputation is on the line is going to far exceed the qualifying of an individual because their reputation is on the line. Where if you work with a bigger internet company, they're just a numbers factory. They're just trying to get people in. But you're like diligently going through, because ultimately, if that loan doesn't go through, they're going to be pointing the finger at the finance person if it's something financially
100%.
So you pick up the phone and you can talk to Kevin and Kevin only. You're not going to have to go through the prompts of so many people.
Yeah, right. If one of my loans is on one of your listings, right? If something goes wrong, I walk through the office, come in, talk to you, and go through it. But something goes wrong and it's on my fault. What, am I not going to come back in?
Yeah.
Hide around town, trying to stay away from Tim. Like, you want to kind of own your work and know, like, when we're putting out a pre-approval letter, we want to earn people's business.
Yeah.
We want to let the local agents know you can work with DML, you can work with Kevin, and that's like the big thing for us is like it's very important to maintain that, because ultimately, like, that's the most important thing, to let people know that we're going to get the job done if you see our letter on it.
I think it's important that you can actually go to a place and visit and meet with that person versus talking to somebody in Detroit, Michigan.
Yeah.
And they're located right here in Bel Air, 206 South Hayes Street.
South Hayes. Yep. Right around Bend.
I don't know how I came up with that right off the top of my head. That was good.
Yes.
All right. So you did mention, aside of the 100% FHA financing program, Maryland Mortgage Program actually has several sub-programs within the Maryland Mortgage Program. Give everybody just a brief, generalized glance of what some people can, get from the Maryland Mortgage Program.
Yeah, so Maryland Mortgage Program has, as simple as just straight $6,000 down payment assistance loan. Mm-hmm. Again, paid back at the time of sale or refinance. You can do, the $6,000, 3% of the total loan amount, 4% of the total loan amount. They go up to 5%. They also have what's called Smart Buy.
Okay.
That allows for clients who have student loans. Typically, I think last time I looked at it was under $35,000, under $35,000.
Okay.
And depending on certain qualifiers, they'll actually pay off your student loans for you, as long as you pay off all of them, which is the big kicker, right?
Okay.
So you have to get rid of all your student loan debt. Then they also have a program called Home Mobility that helps out any potential homeowner that has any disabilities. They can get down payment assistance there. Both 100%, both MMP, our Maryland Mortgage Program, both of them don't necessarily have to be first-time home buyers either.
That's a good. Yeah. Thank you for saying that.
Yes.
Yeah. This doesn't just apply to first-time home buyers.
No, anybody can use this, whether you have, owned a home previously, whether you currently own a home. Now, with FHA, if you currently have an FHA loan, you'd have to sell the house. You can't have two FHA loans simultaneously, but that's again case by case. Sure.
Awesome. That's awesome. And I've had a couple clients that have used that Smart Buy program, which is huge. And if you go to sell, I believe it's where it's prorated for the year, so it's not like you have to give back the whole amount. 5 years.
Yeah. So every year, 20% of that is forgiven essentially. So after 5 years, basically you want to get in and know that you're going to be in a house for 4 or 5 years or so.
Okay.
If you're using that. But I've done a few of them. They are awesome especially again, for the people who fit where it makes sense.
Yes.
It's a great program.
Yeah. It's good to have options, So with everything said, we're going into 2024 as of the day of our recording here. What's the biggest or greatest advice you can give to home buyers going into this year's real estate market?
The biggest piece of advice is, if your goal is to buy a house, don't be afraid of the market that we're currently in, right? Like, starting in 2019, kind of I mentioned before, I got to see a little bit of the market pre-COVID. I got to see it during, and now I'm in post.
Yeah.
Right. Since 2020, everybody's been saying, just wait for it to kind of fix itself, or wait for it to get better. They said that in 2020, said in 21, 22.
Yeah.
Said it all in 23. They're saying it now. Like, in 2021, when people were trying to buy houses, especially first-time home buyers, it was so difficult for them because interest rates were low and we had an inventory problem.
Yep.
Right. So unless there's going to be an influx of new houses, house prices are still going to go up, especially if rates come down. Now, does it appreciate as rampant as it did in 2020 and 2021?
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe not. But what we're going to end up seeing there is house prices go up, being super competitive, above market. So if you want to get into a home and your goal is to buy a house, now's the time to do it. If you want to get into that kind of not super ultra competitive, right?
Yeah.
And you can kind of reel off your experience of those first-time home buyers that you were talking to during 21. Right? I'm sure those were plenty of tough conversations you had to have with people.
It took a few offer denials before we got one accepted.
Yeah.
And even there were some people that were just like, I have to take a break from this. This is just draining,
Yeah.
And now that the interest rates have gone up, it sounds weird, but you're probably better off now at a higher interest rate with less buyers in the market, because there's not as much of a demand now, because when that interest rate goes down, you do have the ability to refinance it, and that's when all the other people are going to be getting into the market, and that's just going to drive up the home values again. So, sometimes you gotta go against the current, and then look at this more of a long-term thing than just a today type thing.
No, absolutely.
I don't think there's ever been a bad time to buy real estate over a longer period of time.
No, right? Because also too, if you get into the house now, and we do go into that low rate, and you refinance, but that forces the home values up a bit here locally. Again, now you have instant equity as well.
Yeah.
So that you have access to tap into. So again, if your goal is to buy a home as a potential home buyer, don't be afraid of the market. It's always a good time to buy real estate.
Yeah.
Right. And it's always going to be something that you can live in, rent out, do whatever you want.
The most important thing to remember is that you have to be able to afford the monthly mortgage payment.
Of course.
And you have to live within your means. And if you can afford that, then it's worth having the conversation for.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So if people do want to have that conversation, how can people connect with you?
Yeah. So you can give me a call. My number is 410-459-9299. Call, text, my email, kparlett@directmortgageloans.com. On Facebook, so you can find me there. 206 South Hayes Street. Swing on in. Usually in there every day.
Beautiful new office.
Yes, brand new.
You guys, that's
Thank goodness.
That's you were out for about a year?
Yeah, so we were right upstairs prior, and then about a year or so we were out, so flopping around Coffee, Z-Vault, wherever had Wi-Fi, we're running around town. So it's really nice. It's nice to be back with the team, being there every day, and have a place to actually just go and not have to buy a $7 coffee every morning to use the Wi-Fi. I got the 2 little kids at home, so I'm like, I gotta get out of this house.
Hey, right. Yeah, I definitely need a designated place to go to work.
Yeah, well, for me, it was crazy, right? It's like we were out during COVID, everybody going in. And I finally got back. I'm like, oh man, it's so nice to be back. And then out for a year, and the construction was just taking a while between permits and things like that.
Yeah, it's always a process.
It was like, man, we just got back into the groove of being in the office every day to then out. So it's nice. And the place is sweet. We've been trying to put stuff on every month, between education, between, fun events. So hopefully, especially come springtime, we'll be doing a lot of fun stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Great people over there too. Super friendly. Corey and Jeff and the whole gang over there. I mean, just lot of great people with direct mortgage loans.
Yes, absolutely.
So yeah, awesome. Well, connect with Kevin if you have more questions, or you can connect with me as well. We are on Facebook and Instagram at the Markland Advantage, and we're on YouTube at the Markland Advantage as well. And if you have any questions, there's never a dumb question.
Nope.
Just one that's never asked, and we'll be more than willing to help guide you in the right direction, whether now is the time or if it's in 6 months, whenever. We're here for you. So, Kevin, you did an amazing job, my friend.
Thank you, sir.
Good job. Hey, until next time, live your life to the fullest, and we'll see you soon. Take care.